All right. So let's go ahead and formally start. I'm sure there's going to be more people that will be joining us as we move along. I'm Dr. Keith Bramwell with Jamesway Incubator. Carolina Diaz joining us as well. She'll be assisting, especially with our Spanish version of this. And then Kiana Smutzler, you see on the screen there, will be our presenter today. For those that want to listen to this in Spanish, there was an interpretation box at the bottom of your screen. You can hit that and we'll have simultaneous translation for this presentation. And Carolina, if you want to explain that to everybody, then we'll move forward.
Hola, buenos días, buenas tardes a todos. Queremos recordarles que los webinars tienen traducción instantánea, entonces si ustedes van en la parte de abajo en el botón de un globito o un círculo, van a tener la opción de verlo en español y las preguntas las pueden ir colocando en la caja de QIA. De todas maneras, la presentación será compartida y será grabada para aquellas personas que la quieran ver posteriormente.
Thank you. Thank you much. A little bit of housekeeping here. We get these questions all the time on here, and people want a copy of this. So everybody will get an email following the presentation, either this afternoon or tomorrow. It'll have a link to this presentation, so you will be able to watch it again with people in your hatchery. You can download the PDF if you request it as well. So everybody will have an opportunity to see this presentation at a later time. In addition, we have all of our webinars on our YouTube channel, or go to our Jamesway homepage under webinars, and you can find, I don't even know how many, there may be 90 or close to 100 different recordings of different webinars and different topics there now. So very good resource that we have. The questions and answers there's a Q&A box down at the bottom. You will type in your questions at that point. We won't do any questions till the end of our Kiana's presentation, and then let her address. If for some reason we don't get to yours, then we'll get to them directly afterwards. So the topic today is a good one. It's like, I think the whole industry, everything's moving this way, and data, how we manage our data in a more sophisticated manner and an easier manner that we can get the most out of it. Kiana is head of our 360 app and our data management programming we're developing. And so she'll do a great job, I'm sure. I'm always hearing and seeing new things in the way she presents, so I'm looking forward to her presentation today. So with that, let's go ahead and if you'll share your screen, Kiana, I will be here, but I'll turn off my screen and let you go at it, and we'll entertain the questions when we're all done. So Kiana, go right ahead and let's hear what you have to say. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keith. And hello, everybody. It sounds like we have some friends and customers joining us from all over the world, which is something that we're honored that you guys attend our webinars and that we get to have these conversations with you. Hopefully bringing some new information and a little bit of some stuff that you already know. So like Keith said, my name is Kiana. My official title at Jamesway is 360 Business Development and Spare Parts Specialist. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful, but essentially what that means is that I get to work with customers, get to visit them and see what it is that is going on in their day-to-day operations and how we can help optimize that through the 360 platform, which we'll talk a little bit about at the end, is one of the tools to help build a strong preventative maintenance program. And then in the spare parts side, it really does tie into it and into our maintenance in general, which we'll again talk about. But essentially with that spare parts aspect, we're helping customers build lists on what it is that they need to keep in their hatchery to keep things running smoothly. So I have the privilege of working with customers, with our operation team, and with our sales team. So we'll kind of touch into all of that in just a little bit. With that, some of the topics that we are going to discuss involve major causes of equipment failure, the cost of that downtime, the different types of maintenance, an overview on preventative maintenance as a whole, spare parts management, scheduling and accountability with our teams, and then introducing some tools to support maintenance. So, as many of you know, when working with live product, even a few hours of that equipment downtime can translate into some serious consequences. So, what we're going to look at today is how can we get ahead of these issues? What if we had a process for catching problems before they cause damage? So we're going to get into all of that. Some of this is hopefully a little bit of a review for you, but we've also really worked in different resources that Jamesway can provide for you, as well as our various teams. So we'll just jump right into it. First, we're just going to talk about some general major causes of equipment failure. Like I said, I've had the privilege to be able to travel and visit with customers in all parts of the world so that we can really hear what it is that you guys are seeing, and then what we can do as a company to better help you and to provide those resources to kind of combat some of the issues. So just as a general overview with major causes of equipment failure, we do see improper cleaning and chemicals. Water and electronics is a big one. We wouldn't submerge our phones or our laptops in electronics. So why would we do that with some of those electronics found on the machines? And with that, overall, a general abuse of equipment. And we'll jump into all of these in a little bit more detail kind of as we go through the presentation. But not utilizing protective sensor covers or other protective materials for the machine, ignoring warning signs. So once you have a baseline understanding of what is normal in the hatchery, anytime you see something that's deviating from that, not just with your Jamesway equipment, but with any of your machines, whether that is sight, sound, smell, something that you're hearing that's different. Sometimes we maybe hear that a team at the end of the day, they see something that's a little out of the ordinary, but they think it can just wait. We'll just get back to it tomorrow. Ignoring those warning signs can have those consequences that have you rushing in at 2 a.m. And again, we're kind of looking at some of these and seeing what out of all of these major causes are preventable that we can educate ourselves on and start setting up some preventative strategies take place across the hatchery. Not reading the operations manual is a huge one that we'll discuss. Lack of proper spare parts, not replacing worn parts, untrained and inexperienced teams, and then just a general lack of a maintenance plan. So kind of we're going to go through these and see what it is that we can do to prevent these issues. With that, not only is there potential for a significant financial impact to the business, but there's also a higher likelihood of damage to chick quality and hatch performance when some of those issues take place. So obviously, from a financial aspect, we're looking at costly service visits, rushed part deliveries. Sometimes that can be leading to staff overtime and operational efficiencies because these problems take place during operational hours and also not. And what those inefficiencies and that downtime really feeds into that we are really trying to prevent every hour of the day that we're at the hatchery is that compromised chick quality and or the loss of hatchability. This can lead to unplanned outsourcing costs for day-old chicks or general incubation services so that we can be meeting the needs of customers. Unplanned outsourcing, it's the empty machine may force a hatchery to go elsewhere to find day-old chicks or hire incubation services, really leading to those unexpected expenses. And with this, we cannot guarantee 100% that there's not going to be bouts of downtime, but what we can guarantee is significantly reducing this with a proper maintenance plan. So what I'm going to go into is what we see most commonly. We have reactive maintenance and preventative maintenance, which I'll touch on in just a second. I'll be curious from all of our attendees as we kind of begin talking about this. Maybe you haven't put a name to it. Maybe you don't sit and think we have reactive maintenance. But as you start listening to some of these slides, I'll be really interested afterwards to be able to speak with some of our customers and say, what is it that you truly think? Do you think that you're reacting to issues as they occur, or that you're taking steps to have a preventative maintenance plan in place? So with reactive maintenance, this is absolutely the most common course of action that we see taken by customers. It's fixing equipment once it breaks. So action is only taken after a failure occurs. That is unplanned and that is disruptive. It often leads to rushed decisions and to some of those consequences that we just discussed in the previous slide. So with that, overall, what you're looking at is higher long-term costs due to the unexpected downtime, the labor, especially when we're looking at things after hours or in those difficult periods like around the holidays when a lot of things are closed or things are slowing down. Absolutely is where we see that come into play. And then there's just an overall increased risk. So small issues left unchecked can absolutely escalate quickly, and turn a small issue that we could fix out in about 15 minutes into something that causes hours or days of downtime. So as I speak to customers, like I said, I've had the privilege of getting to work on different maintenance programs with customers. I know that each facility is unique, each team is unique. So today, when we go over some of the general actions that can be taken, we'd absolutely love to work with you and get down to what is appropriate for your level of team, your level of experience, and what all of those aspects go into that make a maintenance program a little more unique. But generally, what I have been told by customers is that it is more cost effective to do reactive maintenance. They will say, we do reactive maintenance and we are proud of it because maintenance is only performed when the equipment breaks down. So we're not incurring costs in the meantime, which means it should be more affordable. Unfortunately, what I think that maybe we're failing to see is the long-term damage and the costs that are racked up when when that equipment does break down. So I know that we're maybe not tracking it to the same degree, but really what this means is it leads to increased long-term equipment costs. Not only from the failures that can be severe during both operational and non-operational hours, those unplanned failures can result in significant financial impact to the business. So we're thinking, oh, it only happens every now and then. We're not incurring that much cost. But those, even if they are periodic, that time when equipment goes down, it can have devastating consequences, let alone the probable damage to day-old quality and hatch performance. So what can we do instead? With that, what we are going to be talking about for a majority of today is preventative maintenance. What this means is that you have routine checks and servicing performed on a scheduled basis. It reduces the unplanned downtime and it allows you and your teams to identify and address issues. So what we're looking at doing is extending equipment lifetime, preventing against premature damage that could be prevented, and then improving consistency, which supports both performance and that reduced stress for you and your team. Preventative maintenance is important. We do have a generational change in management, maintenance, and general labor taking place at this period of time, especially across North America. Specifically, we see multi-stage incubation equipment that is over 45 years old on average. So these machines, they are great, but they need a team to be able to support them like all things do. So kind of the thought process with preventative maintenance, again, what I've heard from customers all over is, well, preventative maintenance, it's too expensive. We have to hire on someone just to do that. It takes up valuable time. But really, the real cost comes from those unexpected failures, the lost hatch cycles, the emergency repairs, and those delays in production. So what we're going to do with preventative maintenance is show you how you can implement small changes to be able to work towards a strong preventative maintenance program to protect your equipment, your team, and your budget. So with this, we're going to go kind of a high-level overview of some preventative maintenance aspects and features that we can begin implementing. Again, this is from a high level. We do have a variety of equipment, different ages, different teams, different skill sets, like I said. So with this, afterwards, absolutely reference some of the materials that I'm going to reference, like the manual for your specific machines. We also have support teams here at Jamesway, myself included, and then Mike and Ronald and our consultants. We have so many great and strong, knowledgeable teams, so we can help get this down to a little bit more of an exact for your facility. But overall, let's kind of look at general preventative maintenance and how we can build that in. So first, we're looking at incubators after every set and wash. There is a general, some checks that should be done. So with that are calibrations, like CO2, temperature, humidity, etc. And with that, just performing regular checks on the machine by manually activating different systems. So we're looking at heating, cooling, opening and closing those dampers, checking your alarm systems. It's not something that you need to sit and spend 10 minutes just on each little item here. These are pretty quick checks, but again, getting your hands on seeing that machine. We want as much face time with that machine as possible, so that when there is something that is out of ordinary, we understand what ordinary should be, what normal should be. So just some general checks here with the incubators. Again, regularly after every set and wash. When we go to our hatchers, we're looking at this from a monthly perspective. But the one thing that I do really want to point out here is the door gasket condition that's weekly. They should be inspected weekly because they are subject to so much use. So with transferring, hatching, and cleaning twice a week, it means they are more likely to become worn. And that tight door is crucial for maintaining the necessary temperatures and humidity levels within the hatcher for that optimal development and then hatching that we want to be seeing. So everything else on here is pretty standard, pretty similar to what we would recommend for the incubators. But again, I do want to point out on a weekly basis, we should be checking on that condition, that door gasket, making sure that we're getting a tight seal on our hatchers. Going on here, we should be doing preventative maintenance on both of these machine types on a quarterly basis as well. So what we're looking at is about every 3 months or so. Again, being able to schedule these out and kind of maybe spreading it out through the week or the month can make some of these items more attainable. I know you think maybe, oh my gosh, doing this every quarter, well, I have to do this report, we have to do this. But there are small practical ways that we can really build this in by spreading it out, by planning it out, so that we're not dealing with something that happens unexpectedly and takes up a much more significant amount of your time and resources. So just a few things that I wanted to highlight on an every 3 month or so basis, making sure that we're checking that door sweep condition, caulking on all joints, check that the damper is operating in zero position, check condition of different sensors, so our temperature, our humidity, our CO2. And then before we do any work with our control box, make sure that that power is switched off, but then making sure to get in there, analyze, is everything clean? Is it dry? All of this can have different impacts on your machines. And when we start doing this consistently on a regular basis, you're going to see that it doesn't take that much time at all to be doing some of these checks. What maybe takes a little bit longer is if we get to it every year, or every couple years, or just whenever we have to. That's when we're going to see a lot more buildup, a lot more control boxes that need to be cleaned, or more significant damage that takes up that bulk of your time. But as we stay consistent, now going into semi-annually, so about every 6 months or so, again, going through here, let's make sure that the doors are latching properly. Let's get in a little deeper on some of these checks. Let's go testing our water quality at the hatchery, making sure that the pivot points on the trolleys are greased and oiled, and doing a full technical check according to those manuals. So we have those for all of our different machine types. If that's something that you don't have, maybe you lost it and you don't know where to find it, please reach out to our team. We would be more than happy to provide these manuals for you for your specific machine types so that we can get a little bit more exact on what those checks should be and what this maintenance program should look like for you. But not only doing technical checks, obviously today we're going to talk a little bit more about the setters, the hatchers, your HVAC equipment, but all preventative maintenance should be done on a regular basis, also for automation and for all of the different equipment that is in the hatchery. So I'll go a little bit more in specific what we can do for you, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We should be building in programs for all of our equipment to make sure that we do not see any issues. So now we're going to start breaking it down a little further. What are some large key steps that we need to do to begin a preventative maintenance program? And this might be if you're starting from nothing. If you come in and you say, we sit there and we wait, and then when something happens, we go address it, and there's nothing that we're doing in the meantime to set ourselves up for success. So let's go through this. First, we do need to take an inventory of that equipment. So create a full inventory of all the critical equipment and the parts that go with them. So review knowledge of your service history. If you do have anything that is down on paper in your computer, that service history is extremely important, especially with the long lifetime of these machines, so that you can prioritize focus areas for where that preventative maintenance should take place. But overall, let's get an inventory taken down of our equipment and our parts. Next, we're going to develop checks and routines. So we're going to build a structured plan based on daily, weekly, and seasonal tasks, similar to what I just spoke about. Really using manufacturer guidelines as a starting point, and then being able to tailor to your specific conditions and needs. Every team, every facility is a little different. So use this as a guideline, but this does not have to be, every single thing has to be structured exactly as we outline it. You have a little bit of flexibility to work this into what is most practical for you. Next, you need to train and assign these roles. So ensure that all staff understands their responsibilities and the overall value of preventative maintenance. If we have a maintenance supervisor that says, yes, this is what we need to do, this is important, or we have a director of hatcheries that knows the value in preventative maintenance, but the teams that are on the floor don't, what you're going to see is some inconsistencies that are still going to leave you vulnerable to some of the downtime and the mishaps that we can see compared to someone that doesn't have preventative maintenance at all. So a trained and engaged team is key to the success of your hatchery from all levels. And then next and last, we're going to really dive into the documentation of maintenance. So once we have that inventory, we have those checks down, we know who's going to be taking care of what, the last part is to track those tasks. So using a log or digital tools, and we'll go over what some of those are for you. What we're doing is we're building accountability, and we're highlighting recurring issues to support more accurate maintenance planning over time. Essentially, we want to review results and adjust so that we can analyze the failures or the repeated issues and make sure that we're continuing to improve these routines and what's best for your facility. Again, just following a piece of paper and saying, okay, yeah, that's preventative maintenance. You're not going to see the full benefits. We really have to build this into our day-to-day, and then sometimes we need to pivot and say, this piece of equipment needs more attention. We should be doing this every 2 months instead of 3 with certain items. So being able to customize this to you is critical in building something that's really practical and it lasts you the long term. So first, one of the things I want to talk about is, why do spare parts and the management of them matter? That you can see here on the right-hand side is a nice little image of a crazy situation. So something we don't want to have happen is something goes down, especially because I think we all know that the machines don't go down when it's convenient and when they're empty and when we have ample staff ready to take it on. Unfortunately, they're going down at 2 a.m. They're going down on Christmas. They're going down on these unpredictable times. And the last thing we want is for it to be a quick spare part change and we don't have it or we don't even know where it could be found. So, really reliable hatchery operations depend on that quick access to the correct parts. Even minor delays in replacing a part, a failed component, can lead to that unplanned downtime, the interrupted hatches, emergency repairs, lower chick quality, and have a high impact on hatchability. Even if it's something that you come to us and you say, this is urgent, I need it shipped out as soon as possible, and we get this turned around to you next day, that delay when the machine is down, especially if there's eggs in it, we know that it can have some pretty devastating consequences. So, proactive spare parts management, it reduces the risk, it supports your preventative maintenance program, and it's going to give your team the tools to respond effectively. So, what are some of the best practices for spare parts management as a whole? Well, it begins with simple, consistent habits. So, first, we're going to organize our storage. Designate a secure, organized storage area for your parts so that we prevent damage or loss of these items. Um, Next, we're going to look at that inventory tracking. All too often, we get those calls from different hatcheries saying, this is important, we need this now. Um, so, what we propose is really tracking that inventory, making sure that you document inventory levels regularly so you're not caught off guard because you think that you have an extra motor and you don't. Um, it's going to be critical into building a program that you can really depend on. Next, once you have all your inventory tracked and in a secure spot, nice and organized, we need to go through and start doing some labeling. So using that clear labeling and categorization to improve access and minimize your search time. Within our manuals and different programs like 360, we do have guided diagnostics and different items to tell you exactly how to troubleshoot. But with this, if we don't have an understanding of what our parts are, we look at all of them and it doesn't make a difference to us if that's PB6001 or if that's a damper motor or whatever that looks like. Between that, you need to have a general baseline understanding. Our team can support you, can help you in identifying spare parts and the numbers, but with this, we do need that clear labeling and categorization for those parts. As we start getting a little bit more comfortable, we're taking the 3 steps and we have this available to us. You can start getting a little bit more detailed. So tracking the usage to identify frequently replaced items, adjusting stock levels and different items like that. And lastly, highly recommend having a damaged part protocol. This is not something that we see as frequently, but with that, damaged or questionable parts must clearly be marked so that they can either be repaired quickly or discarded. We don't want a handful of parts sitting there that we don't know how much usage they had, how old they are. They're just taking up space. And then what we would really want to prevent is that being put into a machine as an emergency solution, only to have that part fail because it is damaged or something along those lines. So with this, keeping your storage and spare parts clean, your records current, what you're doing is you're laying the groundwork for better planning and faster responses to unplanned issues. With this, you can see a nice image again on the right-hand side where those parts, they are organized, they're easy to find, they're labeled. It's easy to quantify exactly how much we have of each part. And the team always knows where to go, especially if we have somebody maybe newer, they don't have as much hatchery experience. They will not be able to go into an unorganized room like what we saw a couple slides ago and be able to help with something along those lines of a machine going down and a part needing to be replaced. So If you're just beginning to build up your inventory, focused on the most important parts first. What that means is starting with the critical spare parts, the components that, if they fail, immediately impact your operations. So we're looking at sensors, fans, belts. That's going to look a little different depending on your machine type. Next, maybe analyzing some of those that have a little bit of a longer lead time, things that seem to take a little bit longer, maybe weeks or months. Let's order those in higher quantities or on a regular basis so that we're never waiting for that item to come in. Um, if you have no idea where to start with what is a critical part, or any of these items, you can absolutely request a critical parts list from your equipment provider. For us, that would be emailing support@jamesway.com to ensure nothing is overlooked. Support@jamesway.com also can help with part identification, and a lot of critical information regarding your equipment. So make sure to have that handy. Like Keith said, we'll make sure that this information is passed on to you in terms of a PDF, so that you have these resources and know who to reach out to. Really having the right parts before you need them, it's key to preventing those costly delays. Another resource that we have for you guys is the Platinum Response Team. This operates 24/7. What this means is having incubation consultants and different experts, so service, identification of parts, all of these resources available to you 24/7 hours a day, 7 days a week. So no matter where you are in the world, we can help support you. Feel free to reach out to our team at the phone number that's provided there again, or at support@jamesway.com. We're absolutely more than happy to have you guys reach out to us. And these are services that we're providing to you for you because we know there's a need for it. You are not going to incur a cost or a bill from us from emailing us for help or giving us a call. This is absolutely something that is provided as a courtesy to our customers. So again, this Platinum Response Team, it can help identify part numbers, service issues, incubation questions, emergencies, etc. So please feel free to reach out whenever you need it. Next, I just added this in recently. Why buy from the original equipment manufacturer? I'm just going to go over this quickly, but it's something that we've seen as a little bit of a growing concern because we've had several customers reaching out with different questions, with need for support. And then when we get a member of our team there on site, we realize that these are not parts that were provided by us, or specifically for equipment. So I just want to touch on this really quickly for you guys. With original equipment manufacturer or OEM parts, you have guaranteed compatibility. These are the parts that we are specifically designing and testing for your equipment. We are ensuring reliable performance and proper fit every single time. This does feed into protecting your equipment integrity. Using non-OEM alternatives can compromise machine function, void warranties, or lead to premature failures. We do have consistent quality standards. So with our OEM parts, we are meeting the strict manufacturing standards and undergoing quality control checks so that we can provide you with that peace of mind and long-term savings. And then lastly, again, the access to support. We are more than happy to provide support for all of our customers. But if we have a non-OEM part, it becomes a little bit more of a tricky situation. A part that we are not familiar with, that we did not guarantee and test to meet the guidelines that we have for our equipment. It starts maybe getting into some of those troublesome areas where we're not able to provide full support, especially for those parts or controls or items that were not provided by us. We can provide technical guidance, documentation, and service that other aftermarket sellers typically cannot match. It's something we're more than happy to do so for our equipment and for our parts. But like I said, when we start getting into non-OEM, that becomes a little bit trickier for us to be able to help you in the proper way. And then quickly again, just touching on the Jamesway Parts website. We do have a fantastic new website based on feedback from all of you. So when you go in here, you can break down by the type of machine. So single stage, multi-stage, break into the type of equipment. If you just need to look at flats or airway, you're able to look it up and have exact part numbers and some additional specs, especially if we're looking at shipping those and we need specific specs on the size of the equipment. With this, if you do not have access to the parts website, please reach out to your sales representative for your area and they can help get you set up on here. Next, we're just going to touch on a couple of quick examples of preventative replacement of spare parts. This is extremely important, something again we'll touch on a little bit more down the line when we start talking about 360, but kind of showing you the importance of this. So when we're looking at something as simple as a sensor, if we get into a routine and we're able to start replacing this for this specific part, it's about every 5 years. It takes about 15 minutes to replace, maybe a little less if you're good and familiar, and maybe a little more if you have a lack of experience on this. But something as simple as changing out the fan motor belt every year to prevent that unexpected breakdown of a fan, or replacing these sensors on our machines. They take minutes out of your day. You can break this out. We want to get all of these done by the end of the week, the end of the month, but it gives you and your team that flexibility to control. We are scheduling this and we are replacing this, because losing this would cause a critical loss of function to our machines. So again, going over a couple more items. Something as important as a door sweep, we want to ensure airtight incubators, or with an I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, but an inclement, you get what I'm saying. If we replace this every 5 years or so, depending, each part has a little bit of a different predicted lifetime based on manufacturer recommendations. But if we start getting into a routine, replacing the most critical parts when they need to be replaced, when it's on our terms, and we can schedule this, we're ensuring the best use of our machines, the best results, and the least amount of downtime possible. So now that you have all of your parts set up, you have a general understanding of what you have, when you're going to be replacing this, you have a general guideline on some checks that you're going to be doing regularly. The next is really building up our personnel and being able to take accountability. So first, we want to assign roles. It needs to be defined. It needs to be built into daily routines and not just left for when there's time at the end of the day, because we know that there's always going to be stuff that comes up and there's always going to be things that different people debate on what's important. So we need to build this in as a standard, not as an afterthought. With that planning, we do have digital tools, logs, and calendar-based schedules to ensure that you can maintain consistency across your daily, weekly, and seasonal tasks. With the training, so let's train the new personnel with hands-on instruction, key routines, and review of the manuals to ensure proper practices. I will say, you've probably heard this from one of our consultants as well. 90% of all issues can be solved by reading those manuals. And we do have digital versions of these, so it allows for easy searching, looking up keywords. There's a nice table of contents in there. These manuals have so much critical information. So when we are looking at training new personnel, especially if you don't know where to start this training process for your maintenance team, starting at the manuals it's never going to steer you wrong. It's always going to be a great foundation of success for you. And then lastly, reporting. So creating a consistent system for reporting equipment failure to improve response time, again, especially with new personnel, so that they understand how critical this is, and then what it is that they should do to report that, especially if they themselves are not yet equipped to handle a critical issue yet. So with this, we're going to use data to improve over time. So tracking issues, analyzing trends, and then at the and, if needed, justifying some investments. So, logging all your equipment issues and your work orders to identify repeat failures, whether it's the same part, the same machine, it's happening in the same stage in the cycle. Being able to catch on to these patterns is going to be critical in how we build a sustainable program. So, reviewing records to update maintenance checklists to spot those recurring patterns or to make data backed decisions on repairs or replacements or anything with those machines. Then lastly, if needed, that historical data, it helps justify spare parts purchases, prioritizing upgrades, and making smarter investments into your capital equipment. So all of these items kind of feed back into why at the end of just about every topic, I say you need to be logging this. We need to be putting this down on somewhere so that we have reference to the history of maintenance that's been done on these machines. After everything that we just went through, I know that it sounds a lot, like a lot. You can take that step by step, making small changes that are going to really, you're going to thank yourself down the road for. But with this, if you don't feel your team is equipped, or maybe you don't have any tools within your hatchery or your company to support maintenance, I'm going to go over one that is built custom for you for our equipment that does. So, overall, with digital tools as a whole, it has some significant advantages. So there are gaps in manual processes. If we are relying on our team to do every single thing by hand, every little detail needs to be logged, everything needs to be looked at, it can become a little bit overwhelming. So with manual processes, we know that they can be inconsistent. Tasks can get skipped or forgotten or done without documentation, leading to gaps in care and accountability later on. With digital platforms, we're looking to solve these issues by providing scheduled reminders, interactive checklists, and real time notifications when a step is skipped, all accessible from a mobile device so that you can track this on a tablet, on your phone, on a computer, having those digital backups in other locations as well. Overall, what we're looking for is increasing visibility. So if we have clear task tracking and accessible records, these digital systems can create transparency across your teams and help sure that critical maintenance actions are always completed on time. So I would like to introduce, we touched on it just for a second, 360. This is our response to all of the issues and the obstacles that our customers have ran into. Um, 360 is Jamesway's own digital platform. It's hosted on the Microsoft Azure cloud. What this means is that each customer has their own portal that's custom, safe, and secure. And then I'll kind of touch into some of the functions that 360 has to help address the gaps that you might be seeing in your own maintenance program specifically. So right now what we're looking at here is the custom dashboard. This is a dashboard with different items that you find important to your day-to-day processes. So right now this is set up to look at our maintenance tasks, the top usage on machines, items that are low in stock, and overall work orders for the month. What this is doing is it's automating some of the processes that we just spoke about. So giving you reminders, keeping track of your inventory and notifying you when items are low in stock, telling you exactly where you're spending your time with machines, especially if we have bigger teams where different people may be working on different machines. We can't always just rely on the communication where everyone's meeting up and talking about what they did that day. We need to have a log. We need to be able to start quantifying these numbers and these results so that we can really analyze the best use of our time. So with 360, it's taking all of these items and it's giving you automatic reports, automatic updates, and it's feeding that back to your team so that you can just spend your time on making decisions or making fixes and not having to spend so much time on keeping this data up to date. With this here, you can also see a list of spare parts. So every customer that gets their 360 platform portal, what we're doing is giving a custom spare parts list for your machines. We'll work with you on this before we get your portal even set up, so that we can make this as close to accurate as possible. If we do have some machines that are a little bit older, we'll need to kind of work with you and your teams, but we'll absolutely get you set up with your Jamesway parts list. What this list right here is breaking down are the parts that need to be replaced on a regular basis to ensure proper function of the machine. So our damper motor, our relays. What we're doing here is we have a life cycle for each of these based on the manufacturer recommendation. 360 is automatically tracking the usage of these machines so that it can feed to you when these parts need to be replaced and what that looks like. Additionally, for each part, we obviously have that nice little part number, the nice image, to help give you a little bit of direction, especially if your team is not as familiar with some of our equipment. With this, the status is going to be updated automatically and sending you those reminders. So it's telling you the amount of time that you have left for each part. So again, this is not something that you need to manually track, especially when we're looking at anything over the course of 1 year, like some of our sensors that need to be replaced, say every 2 years. What this is going to do for you is be able to give you the reminder when that comes up, because we know that when things have that long of a life cycle, that it can be a little bit complex to track, especially if we have any turnover on our teams. Next, 360 has intuitive different processes. So with these work orders, it's actually going to create a work order for you. It's going to notify your team that this needs to take place, and it's going to send that off and put it in your calendar. So again, spending less time on having to do that pen to paper, assigning out everything that needs to be done for the day. We want to give your team more time to be hands-on with the machines, not just sitting behind a desk trying to log everything. So 360 will automatically come with these work orders and reminders on different items that are pertinent to your machines. The last item in regards to maintenance that I really want to close in on here right now is guided diagnostics. So if your team has different varying levels of experience, especially with our machines, what we're seeing here is that 360 can take you through that troubleshooting process. I know that some of our consultants have been called out to items that have been sitting there for weeks, problems that customers maybe don't know how to respond to. So with this, we wanted to provide a tool to help address these troubleshooting needs quickly and on your own time schedule. So for an example here, we see on either a Platinum 2 or 3 machine, the heating was not working. 360 is going to take you through those guided diagnostics, asking you to measure the voltage between certain areas. It'll lay that out on a diagram through here, and it'll take you through the troubleshooting process. Let's say a damper is not working. It doesn't necessarily mean that the damper is the issue. It could mean a variety of different sensors, or calibrations need to take place. So 360 will take you through this, again, reducing the costs you're spending on parts that are not being used, or different items along those lines. That was a very quick overview on the functionality within 360. There's a significant amount of advantages and customization that we can do for you and your team. So if you're curious, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to chat with you, get a baseline understanding of what your maintenance program currently looks like, and then what we can do to maybe help streamline some of that. So again, feel free to reach out to me at any time. My phone number and my email are provided right here, and I'd love to get a chance to sit down with you and your team and work through this. So really some of the key takeaways that we're walking away from here with is that top performing hatcheries, regardless of their age or their size, they always have an effective preventative maintenance program. And this does not mean that necessarily you have to be the largest hatchery and have the largest team. One of the customers that I work with specifically on 360, they're kind of starting from the ground up. They have a very small team. They don't have people there 24/7, and they have built an incredible, incredible program because that team has been very intentional and interactive with the platform so that they're making the best decisions possible for them. And it's fantastic to see the progress that can be made. So routine maintenance, it's foundational for reliability, budgeting, and peace of mind. And regardless of your size, your age, or your location, a hatchery is only as good as the preventative maintenance programs that are in place. Preventative maintenance is not just about avoiding downtime. It's about building a hatchery that it runs smarter, lasts longer, and performs better. So start small, stay consistent, and remember that the best time to act is before anything goes wrong. And that is my last slide for you guys.
Thank you very much. It was enjoyable. You can unshare your screen now so we can see more of you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you kind of put things together very well in a very organized fashion and built upon like the 360 app. It does a lot more things than maintenance, but I think all of us have agreed that's a huge thing. In your dealings with customers, how important do you think that is to have a planned routine maintenance program? For instance, how often do you see people not having that? And so you can really see how much this will help.
Unfortunately, we see a lot of customers that do not have a planned maintenance program. Every single time from the maintenance supervisors, they do tell me this is something we would love to have, but we don't have the people, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the resources to do this. So I think that's why it's so important to recognize that you can start making small changes. We're not saying you need to turn around today and go fix everything and overhaul everything that you guys know. It needs to start with those small changes. That's why one of my absolute favorite things about working with customers on 360 is we can see where they are, where they're starting at, and then we can start recognizing where they can build on that.
Yeah. And that from my perspective and our consultants going out to see hatcheries, we hear that all the time. A good or great maintenance program will make or break a hatchery. I mean, it really will. And I think this is just
Absolutely.
an asset for people. So what other recommendations would you have in developing a program maybe outside of the 360 app? If somebody wants to develop
Absolutely.
a program.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing to start with is kind of taking inventory of everything. We see a lot of customers maybe don't know what parts are, what their numbers are. So when it starts coming into some of those critical times, they don't have a full understanding of even some of the details on their machines, their parts. So taking inventory of what you have, making sure that you have everything in kind of a clear way that you understand, especially because unfortunately we do see a number of turnover and some of that loss of historical experience and familiarity with the machine. So making sure that it's documented somewhere, even if it's in a folder in your office, understanding what your parts are, what your machine is. That's, I think, the most important place to start.
And how easy is it for a customer, say they adopt the 360 and want to start using it? Is it like, are they bombarded with all the stuff they need to do to input all their machines and everything like that, or is that something they're assisted with?
Yeah, so we know that you guys don't have time to just be sitting behind a computer for about 8 hours trying to input little details into a new system. So we provide that as a courtesy to you. You'll likely be working with me. We'll kind of do a step by step on the information that you can provide, and then our teams will take care of it. And if you have any questions, we can make recommendations on best practices for your machines. But yes, we do. We'll help upload your inventory. We already provide your parts list. We provide a lot of this information for you. So you can log in, you can see how your machines are doing with that remote access, and you can jump right into usage.
Now, who can use this? I mean, what type of customers and equipment? I mean, who's this work for? Like anybody with incubators, or is it limited to our companies, or why don't you address that a minute?
Yeah, so if you have Jamesway equipment, we can provide those parts lists and those machine breakdowns for you. We can add any third party equipment into the platform, especially let's say we have a customer with Jamesway Platinums, but maybe they have some automation or some third party equipment that they also have at the hatchery. We can actually get those devices custom. We can get those lists, the checks, and a lot of times it's you sending the manual for that specific machine, and we can build that into the platform as well. But this platform is for anyone with a hatchery. We can absolutely help assist in customizing what that looks like for you.
So you talk mostly about maintenance module. What other things can this do for somebody running, say, a very large hatchery?
Yeah, absolutely. So 360 it's a web-based platform, but you can also download it as an app on a computer, a tablet, or any laptop or whatever that looks like. I always like to say phone because oftentimes people always have their phones on them. So it's as simple as getting onto that 360 app, and then you have one-way communication, so you can see live data from your machines. So you can see at a bare minimum with 360 any of the alarms, any of the interactions going on with your machines, if you have high temperature, low temperature, or even if you just want to get on there and say, okay, all the machines look good. So fantastic for smaller hatcheries where they're maybe not staffed 24/7, or even for our larger hatcheries where that hatchery manager can't be there 24/7 hours a day, having that peace of mind to be able to quickly log on, see how everything at the hatchery is doing. In addition to the maintenance, the guided diagnostics, and then we also have egg tracking. So looking at those analytics from your breeder stock, seeing what your hatchability looks like, having all of that graphed out for you.
What about somebody with Chickmaster equipment? Because I know where Chickmaster Jamesway is one now, but I think some people are concerned about how this works with their Chickmaster equipment. What are the
No,
limitations?
absolutely. Absolutely. We do have customers that have Chickmaster equipment on the 360 platform. There is a slight difference in one aspect. So the live data function is unfortunately not available due to the types of communications with the machine and how it interacts with the cloud platform. But we can absolutely build a portal for you with your Chickmaster machines, the parts that are associated with them, and then we're still building in those manufacturer recommendations. It's going to go based on calendar hours or days. So, like that fan belt that I talked about, we recommend it be replaced every year. It's still going to give you that reminder every year, hey, this needs to be done for these machines. So, absolutely, we support our Chickmaster customers. And if you want to see what that looks like, I'd be happy to set up a demonstration and kind of go into it further.
And I will recommend that because a few people are asking questions about they're kind of specific. Is Kiana can get with you if you registered with it with an email. She can get with you after the fact and get a little bit more details about what you're wanting to know. Um, somebody put on here right away. How can I get it? Well, that's what Kiana does. So so she'll
Absolutely.
she'll get with some of those that we may not have been able to touch their questions right away. But yeah, it's a very cool software and developmental program that we're doing that and seeing how it's evolving and developing, and it's really customer feedback evolution of this. So
Mhm.
but no, thank you for a good presentation. There are several questions or comments on here that will be addressed individually because they're a little bit more specific, or we wanted a little bit more, had some more questions on it to be able to cover it. So, but bear with us. We'll get back to that on there. One quick question. So in the maintenance module and when you change things, does it give recommendations on how often machines should be calibrated? How often maybe sensors should be changed? I know that sensors has a lifespan on them, but is there going to be recommendations on that as well?
Yes, some of those checks that I recommended where we're looking at it at every cycle or we're looking at something every 3 months, every 6 months, those recommendations are also built into the 360 platform automatically for you, so that reminders for things, even if it's not directly related to a part, it'll still come up in your portal for you as a reminder.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, well, thank you very much. I think this went very well. It was very informative. You did a fantastic job of covering all this material. So give you compliments on that. And for all you that attended, thank you for participating with us in our Jamesway Wednesday webinar series. And again, any questions, feel free to forward them to us. Look forward to seeing as many of you as we can. Our next webinar is August 27th. Be a very good topic, and I think it'll be intriguing to a lot of people. You'll hear a little bit more about it as we move forward. Again, thank you, Kiana, for your work. Thank you, Caroline, in the background, and our translators, and Sydney for making sure all this works right. And again, thank you again, and look forward to seeing you another series of our webinars.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith.